Welcome everybody at the second day of the second edition of Digital Revolution. We are here with 25 participants from 25 countries. We kicked off yesterday and we hope to have an inspiring panel today as well. We have great speakers coming from all over the world again. There is Marion Louisgrand from who is running Afropixel Festival in Senegal. There is Natália Machiavelli from the International Theatre Festival in Sao Paulo, and there is Dharam, who is speaking from the point of NH7 Weekender Festival in India. The conversation will be facilitated by Mike van Graan, and we will be tackling lessons learned from the digital world today. So Mike, over to you for an inspiring panel. Thank you.
Great, thanks Inge, and welcome back everybody. Inge's done the introductions, so to allow us to have as much time with these speakers, each of them being on a different continent, Africa, Latin America and Asia, we'll give them as much time as possible. Each of them will have about 10-12 minutes to make a presentation. There'll be a facilitated discussion and then invite you as participants to engage with them as well. We're going to go in the following order. We're going to start with Marion, who's based in Senegal, and then go over to Dharam, and eventually have Natália, who tells us that her English wakes up at about 8 o'clock. So she is about, I think it's about 6:30 in the morning where she is right now. So let's go, Marion, over to you.
Hi everyone, thanks Mike, thanks Inge for the invitation. I'm really happy to share the experience of Afropixel Festival. Sorry for my English. I am the director of the Center for Art and New Media based in Dakar, Senegal, that exists since 2002. And one of the aim is to give access to artists and young people to new media tools. So I will speak more this afternoon a bit about this, but in 2008, we started in through network from Finland, Pixelec Festival, to run a festival, Afropixel Festival in Dakar, that has been questioning the place of digital technology in African society from Dakar. And this festival is for us an opportunity to invite international digital actors to exchange with local actors to collectively contribute to a reflection on technology and a better perception and dissemination of digital art in Africa. Usually we do this festival during the Dakar Biennale, that is a great effervescence in the cultural sector in Dakar, where there is a mix of public with the international public scene and the local audience. Voilà. So last year we were supposed to do the 8th edition before the COVID, and the Biennale asked us to contribute on video mapping, very big public manifestation. And as the COVID came, we delay, and I was not fond of doing a digital edition. There was so much thing with digital already. People was there was so much. I was not really sure to do something with digital for this 8th edition. And it's true, we work a lot with networks, and it's Tegan Bristow that will join us, that is with us today in Johannesburg with Fakufukesi Festival, who shared with me an open call from Pro Helvetia in Johannesburg and say, let's do something together. And I said, why not? It's I participate to Fakugezi this year edition during summer. There was a new media curator program. I was busy, but I said, why not? It's a way to try and experiment a new format, even if I was not sure of that. And we, as Fakugezi had launched Power to the Pixel, we say, let's do we work a lot on the commons thematic topic for many years, experimenting commons through a Fab Lab and a garden, a School of Commons. And I say, with our network, let's do an edition, Power to the Commons. So perhaps I will share a small video and speak about this experience we had, just to share with you this. Is it okay? I hope everyone see the.
Yep.
My face. It didn't work until I put on this white mask. I'm thinking, all right.
Sociologiste à l'université de Dakar et je m'intéresse au commun et c'est ainsi que j'en suis venu à collaborer avec Turkestan.
La technologie est porteuse d'idéologie. La technologie a une certaine rationalité qui n'est pas forcément la rationalité africaine. Il n'y a pas une seule solution, mais je crois que c'est tous les acteurs qui doivent se saisir de cette problématique et chacun à son niveau a une partie de la solution.
Et cette œuvre raconte l'histoire d'un conteur et soucieux de préserver la tradition orale, qui utilise son propre langage et des méthodologies de contes qui se retrouvent dans la tradition orale.
Connection,
This picture here, or this animation, the artist create a process.
Les nouvelles technologies sont des outils extraordinaires qui nous offrent de nouveaux moyens d'expression et silencieux inédits. Silence, j'ai découvert le possible silence, on va quand même le silence.
Libre de lâcher ça, rien n'est à nous, l'arrêt pour tous, people, on essaie aussi, so
Voilà, I come back to you. Okay. As you see, we try to keep the format we have usually with exhibition. So this time we had to do an online exhibition, and we had a workshop. Usually it's 2 months. It's very big, the festival. We receive many people coming to the workshops, and after it. Before the Biennale, and we do public events during the Biennale. So we keep this format of workshop, and it was a challenge to deal teams with foreign artists and local, how to touch the audience. So it was not totally digital. We need, as you see at the end, to have hybrid format and to keep and we really appreciate that, because to do only digital was a bit frustrating. That was our feeling. And we keep the discussion agora also, and so I say we are quite happy with this format, but and we had residents also, so to try online residents and to try to use Zoom not only as conference but also to make artists from Colombia, Lubumbashi, Switzerland and Senegal to work together with some artists that never had the digital experience, like Koraman from Casamance was also a big challenge. So after I will let you ask the question, but we had I can say that it's very exhausting to do all online and frustrating, but so it was good for us to keep this hybrid format at the end. To translate everything was all the conversation was also very, but we needed to do a website. We have a website, so I think it's more on the long term. I cannot say the festival finished on 10th of April, it was 1 month, but all the contents is very rich and still shared during 1 year. The artists accept we pay the artist and fee for their art piece to keep their piece 1 year online on the After Pixel website. And we had to really, we are used to work in network, really with we are part of Arts Collaborative Network. It's a Global South 25 cultural organization. And for this exhibition and for this edition, we really had to work for the exhibition. For example, we work a lot with Pakugezi, with a foreign correspondent that we call this like this to think about IA on the continent. So to speak about the thematic, we choose to speak about the commons that has really sense in this period of COVID, but through the ethic perspective also, what it means, what do we share, what do we want to share, from where, what are the commons, and what ethic is in the technology. That's perhaps, I could speak a lot, but I will let you ask questions because it's more about experience and what you would like to learn from that. Mike?
Okay, thank you very much, Marianne. We will come back in the conversation and maybe tease out some of the questions related to what you've provided some input around. So thank you very much for that presentation and for the visual kind of impression of what it is that you do as well. Dharam, can we move over to India?
Hi, Mike. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me over. As a quick introduction, my name is Dharam. I head partnerships and alliances for the live division at OML for brand solutions. And I have been working with OML for the last 10 years and have been very closely involved with the way our IP has grown over the last decade, which is N87 Weekender. N87 Weekender is a music festival, which is, we like to call it India's happiest music festival. And it is the largest platform for independent music in this neck of the woods. India as a country admittedly has been about Bollywood music for as long as you can imagine. That is the first preferred choice of music fans in the country. But over the last decade or so, we've definitely seen a rise in consumption of independent music, and as fans of the music ourselves, we thought it was our duty to put out a festival that represents the true mood of music in the country. And that's how N87 Weekender was born. We've done 11 editions of the festival so far. 10 of them have been on ground, and last year was when we went online with the Weekender. And it was a very interesting year, as you can imagine. There was a lot of debates internally on the direction that we should take. And I think I can present a small case study for you to know what we ended up doing and some of the thought process with which we made our decisions. I'd also like to share some of the good stuff we've done along with some of the mistakes that I think we made and stuff that we want to try and rectify for the future years. And I hope that you guys will find it insightful as well. With that, I'll just start sharing my screen. Just give me a moment. Right. I hope you can see my screen. So like I was saying, we occupy the position of the happiest music festival. As a festival, we have multi-genres represented here, and the scale of the festival has grown year on year. The narrative that we were going for was that while the world was in topsy-turvy and in a state of turmoil, we wanted our fans to have a sense of normalcy and a connect with their regular world by giving them their favorite music festival on the same dates that it happens every year. We thankfully are a December festival, so that allowed us the time to prep through the year to put it out in the month of December, and our partners at Bacardi were very kind in the way they supported us through the year. What we did was, earlier when the lockdown was first announced, we started off moderate. We started off with Instagram live editions of the festival. So we put out lineups of artists that we always worked with, and the kind of lineups we put out means that there's always something for everyone. That is the music festival, which means all genres are represented in a very democratic manner. When we did the Instagram edition of the festival, it was more as a reaction to what was happening in the world. We wanted to try and spread a cheer, and as the duty of the happiest festival, to try and do that in a time where everyone is definitely unhappy. We feel like we achieved what we wanted to do. We spread a cheer, and we had a lot of fans who tuned in on Instagram to kind of celebrate with us back in March. But that was the stepping stone for what we eventually managed to create. At the same time, as we rolled out with our Instagram edition of the festival, world over, we were looking at examples of how live events and concerts were starting to evolve. Travis Scott's integration with Fortnite was one to take note of, especially because of the way they managed to create an immersive experience for fans who are watching a concert in a video game world. That's how immersive we could choose to go to, and maybe at some level, every festival wants to be cutting edge in the way they kind of put their product out. And this was in some ways noteworthy for us as well, but we were trying to decide how far we want to go in building an immersive experience. And at that point, we started questioning who our fans are. Our fans in India are an internet consuming audience, most of which do not have gaming consoles that are needed to attend a festival like this one, if we were to put out something in a video game world. So which is why, taking cue from where our fans are and what they do, we needed to make a festival that is very easily accessible on the internet, and hence we went with a web version of the festival that is accessible on your computer as well as on your cell phone. We needed to make sure that our fans need to be able to watch the experience first and foremost, and that's how we came up with what we built. The festival was built on a proprietary platform with our ticketing partners, Insider.in. And this is what the intro page of the festival looked like. It was a custom built website with little icons that represented key highlight moments from the past years of the festival, and allowed fans that sense of familiarity of being in touch with their favorite experience. These are the ways in which the stages were represented. It was a 4-stage experience. There was 3 music stages along with 1 comedy stage. And along with that, we built in a lot of engagement touch points for the brand that we work with to be represented in the best way possible. Bacardi has been a partner and supporter in the festival since day 0, and a lot of their experiences are bunked into the way we design this. So we had designed certain bar games for people to play if they're getting some downtime between performances. We also created photo booths for people to create shareable assets, so that at a festival, when you know you want to take a nice photo when you're happy, you're able to do that digitally as well, of course. And more than just that, the things that we were trying to plan for was how to keep our audiences engaged with the festival. When we did the Instagram version of the festival, we realized, or rather I realized myself, that we were catching up with our friends on a separate Zoom call while watching the Instagram live, which meant that you might be watching your favorite artist, but that moment is not solidified unless you kind of share it with your loved ones. And that made us realize that we also wanted to build in what is a way for you to stay connected with friends. So if you look at the screen here, we have the option of starting a party, which means you could be looking at a performance, but you can also start a chat and a live conference with some of your friends to enjoy that performance together. And that feeling of togetherness is why you even attend a music festival in the first place. You enjoy these moments with your friends, and that's what cements these memories for a lifetime. So how can we try and give that to our fans in a manner that is digital, is how we were envisioning it. And more so, what happens is there is a certain amount of fatigue that sets in, and I think Marion touched upon that really well as well. We were very wary of the fact that digital concerts are also starting to become boring after 6-8 months of the lockdown. And more so, digital concerts are competing neck to neck with massive content hubs like YouTube and Netflix. Imagine one boring moment, and at the click of a button, you can switch off completely and join a Netflix show or whatever you may, So we're competing with high quality, well produced content, which means that we need to build in experiences that allow our fans to stay engaged with the platform in the best way possible, which is why the way we designed it, there was a lot of things for our fans to do within the festival world before they kind of got bored. And before they got bored, their next favorite act is already taking stage. So that way we were kind of guaranteeing that fans end up spending a lot of time at our platform. Some of the games that we developed were mainly from our partners' point of view. Bacardi, as you know, is one of the leading liquor brands in the world. And what we did was we built a role-playing game where people could actually be bartenders and serve drinks with a time limit. This meant that it was gamified, there was a certain amount of gratification attached to it, and it also meant that you have fun while playing the game, but you also start memorizing the recipes with which key Bacardi cocktails are made. So that was something that worked well from a brand perspective, letting people have fun, but also take away a branded message at the end of it. All of which while staying engaged and continuing to be immersed with the platform that we built. In terms of the ticketing, the entry barrier was very low. We wanted to keep the experience free to attend, but we were also hopeful to not keep it absolutely free of cost. We tried to keep it as low as possible, which meant that literally $1.50 was enough for you to access the festival stream, going up all the way to over $100 where you're supporting the festival for future editions. And we saw that that worked really well. We had thousands of fans who were contributing to tickets to the festival for future years without even knowing if the festival is going to happen or not. And that kind of cemented our belief that our fans want us to stay for the long run, they believe in the festival, and they're able to lock in their monies with the festival without even knowing when it's going to happen again. That's a massive leap of faith that fans are taking with you, and that allows us to know that our brand value is kind of strong as well. And we had different editions of the pass where you could also get an early bird ticket to the next festival, but you also get a weekender kit, you get merchandise from the brand, and that way we ensure that sampling happens in the right way. We ensure that there is a piece of memorabilia in your homes that reminds you of the festival day on day, week on week. And at the same time, it guarantees that you're connected with the festival for a long time. So that way, having different price points was definitely a good one for us. In terms of the way we program the festival, we're predominantly a music festival. But at the same time, we've also seen how comedy has a massive role to play within pop culture in the country. And we also had a comedy stage at the festival. We had a mix of international acts, live bands like the Lumineers and Hiatus Coyote, and a lot of Indian acts like Lucky Ali and DJs like Nuclear and Ritviz and that. The lineup was all about giving something to our fans that spreads a cheer. And the way we program these artists, we were briefing the artists on the kind of performances that they will be doing. This was a really important factor to retain the attention of our audiences. Artists were encouraged not to just play one song after another the way they would do on ground, but allow a certain level of storytelling to creep into their sets. So imagine that you're actually making a content piece as opposed to making a live performance that you would do otherwise on ground. And this content allows your fans a deeper insight into your life and hence creates a deeper connect between the fans and the artists. And we saw really interesting takes of what artists did with this. Hiatus Coyote in Australia came up with a very well produced piece of content from a studio that they refer to as Mirror Cave, which was a play on lights and mirrors, and it's a spectacular set that they've also uploaded on their YouTube later. We had some artists from Singapore and Delhi who were trying to show their fans what their life was growing up in their hometowns. So Hashbase did that with the city of Delhi. He shot every song at a different location within the city of Delhi that allowed fans an idea of what his life was. And on a similar note, Young Raja shot every song at a landmark location in Singapore, which allowed fans to know what his time in Singapore was like. And this aspect of storytelling allows fans a deeper connect with the artist at the end of the day. We also encouraged artists to perform at picturesque locations. The band Tabachake did their performance on top of a mountain that was kind of cleared out with drone shots to give you really breathtaking, picturesque views of their city. And these kind of moments give you the relief from your four walls of your house, because everyone's stuck in lockdown and doesn't really have that. So when they see a band performing in the outdoors, it kind of gives them that sense of relief. So our programming was done in a manner where there is a good amount of storytelling involved, there is a good amount of relief involved for fans in the way they consume the content. And all of these performances are never seen before performances. You can't have ever watched this before on YouTube. And this is something that adds value to your life as fans who follow these artists. We managed to program 65 artists over 3 days, and some key stats that you can see on the screen here. The festival worked really well for us. We had 6,000 attendees from the digital edition over the weekend, and in a single day we had over 31,000 footfalls, which is the best we've ever done, whether it's live or online. And in some ways it's obvious we should be able to do something like that because we're going digital, so the scale kind of opens up, and the festival proved that it is possible to do that. So this gave us the confidence that we're on the right track with the way we're designing the festival experience, and we hope that in future years we're able to do a content version of the festival that everybody in the country can access, whether there is a lockdown or no lockdown. And it will complement the on-ground edition of the festival, which only a few select cities are able to attend because the gathering is in their particular city. One of the most telling stats we had was the fact that there was 108 minutes of average watch time per attendee. This is a testament to the content that we put out literally, and the success with which we designed the interactivity and the elements of the platform. And there was a lot of private parties that fans started. Fans shared a lot of videos from the festival, all of which kind of gave us the confidence that we were on the right track. I also mentioned that there were some things we feel we could do better. One of the things we tried to do very emphatically was to create a communication link between fans while they watch the festival. Now this sounds really good to be able to do that, and it worked for me when we were watching concerts on Instagram, where I was watching an artist on Instagram and at the same time I'm talking to 3 or 4 of my other friends on a Zoom call separately on the side. When we do that, what happens is I can mute the music for 5 minutes and just chat with my friends. I can mute my friends for 10 minutes and just enjoy the music. But when both of these come together on the same platform, it tends to get a little bit confusing the way your communication is happening over the music being played. So those are some of the aspects that we wish to fine tune and make it a little bit more worthwhile for our fans. Overall, I would say that the festival was a big success for us. There are still some learnings that I'll be happy to share, and if you guys have more questions, I'll be happy to address them as well. I hope that this was informative.
Dharam, it wasn't just informative, it was brilliant, I think, as you would see from the chat as well. There's lots of really positive feedback to that presentation, so thank you very much. Just a question that I want to ask at this stage. We'll ask more questions a bit later. How much of the digital kind of capacity do you have in-house versus having to in-source?
So in terms of production, the production was outsourced completely in terms of the way it was coded and the design of the festival was made. We do have an internal production team, but it's a very lean team that works with freelancers to ensure a certain amount of efficiency. And the platform itself is a proprietary platform built by our ticketing partners, Insider. They're an extended part of our company, so that in some ways is also internal for us.
Cool, great. You can answer some of the questions in the chat in the meantime, otherwise we'll integrate them into the discussion a bit later, but now we'll move on to Natália. Thanks very much, Natália. Look forward to your presentation. You should maybe unmute, Natália.
Yes, that's better. Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you for all of you and your presentations. Well, I will say some things and also leave space for questions later. I am Natália Machiavelli. I am now director of the virtual platform MIT Plus, which is the virtual platform of the São Paulo International Theatre Festival. So maybe I start talking about the festival first. The festival was created in 2013 by Antônio Araújo and Guilherme Marques. And I started working with them by then since the beginning. And we managed to bring to São Paulo some of great theater plays of the world. And this was very challenging because, of course, to work with theater and theater productions and all the sets that you have to transport and the production of a theater festival, which is massively physical. The whole process is very, very physical, and the art of theater itself is a very physical art. But nevertheless, in 2016, when I went to attend another international festival academy, I learned about some of the advantages of getting to know your audience, and we didn't do that much because we were overloaded with all the production. That I thought that maybe if we had a digital platform, if I had a website that could offer people content, interesting content, we maybe could get their data and know who is watching us, who's our audience, because São Paulo is a city with 11 million people, and we usually have about 25,000 people attending presentially the festival. So where are these people coming from, and which parts of the city, and who are we able to reach people further than the bubble of elitistic people that already go to the theater, already know? Because here, of course, I don't know, you all in a different place of the world, that's very, very magical. But here in Brazil, we have many different challenges with culture and education, because this is always first thing they cut down. Now it's, you probably have heard something about our situation here. We are very badly assisted by our government, to not say, or maybe I come up with stronger words in the course of this, but for now, we had already in 2013, when we started, a lot of challenges, but we also had a government that had policies for culture, even if little. Coming back to 2016, it was after the third edition of the festival, and I started creating this project of a digital platform, because I saw, I also work with audiovisual, and I was responsible for editing the material of all the footage of the festival. And as an editor, sometimes you see a piece of the content and you jump already to the next to compose a video. And I was getting stuck in the contents, because it was very interesting. Things that I didn't see in the festival, I would stay and watch in the video, and I thought, this is rich, and this is also a way of giving back to people once again this content that we already have created, and how can we prolong the life of this archive of the festival. So the idea was really to work with the archive as this golden material, which would bring people into the platform, and would make us know them, because to get access to this content, then we created like a form with the questions that we were curious to know about the audience. So this project I was building this project during the years, and of course in a theater festival, every money that comes in, we already want to spend it with production, with theater, with something, with another work that we can bring to the festival. And there was never money left for the digital platform. So it kept growing in my notebooks, this idea. And then in 2020, in March, we were in the middle of the festival. We were leaving the festival. I was in a van with 20 people, going to a venue, going to another venue, and then suddenly everything was closed. The theaters were closed. We had to go home, and I never came out again. We are here till this day. So we started thinking, okay, so this is maybe a moment, you know, to take that project out of the just put it in reality. And we start talking with partners about that, and with the European Cultural Institutes that normally work with us, the British Council, the Provesia, the Italian Cultural Institute, and others, and we started to produce this project. So mainly and then of course, because now digital was the only thing possible, we also thought of bringing the very artists that came to the festival before to do something new, or to talk with the audience, or to promote workshops, and we were thinking, how would it be that the best quality of experience, because everybody's like with the lives, and it's a lot of things that we are now living in the front of this screen. So we thought the format, what we would show in this platform would need to be carefully thought about, because yeah, of course, what Dharam has said before, it's very easy to change the channel, kind of, or to move. And so what would it be that can actually be interesting? Because watching theater in the video is very challenging if you don't have a proper recording. So we decided to then show only the contents, the art contents that would make sense in this format. So companies that had already film their production in a quality way. So we put the program together while all the pandemic was still here today. I don't know if you know it, but we have over 2,000 people dying every day in Brazil. So it's very, very tragic. And also people, we were thinking, like, what matters now? What does it matter? What do we do? So the idea was to reflect upon the disease and the healing and the encounters. So we put a lot of strength in the encounters. We thought this would be healing, because we are not presentially encountering, but this is also an encounter. We have to believe that the energy that we are exchanging here matters, because this is what keeps us strong. So we based all the program on that, and we decided to bring in the theme, don't like this word so much, but the thought of the colonial process, that we are all the artists that are thinking about decolonizing our knowledge. And so that was, the whole program was surrounding this idea of how the diseases that are harming us are actually bigger than only COVID, which is racism and discrimination and all the poverty and hunger that are harming our country and the world. So we had a lot of beautiful encounterings. We had also a piece called The Encounter by the British theater company Complicité, which is a piece that a lot happens in your head because you have to wear the headphones and it's how do you call it, this dynamic microphone. So we had actual experiences with the art in this platform. For me, it was very surprising how many people did watch. We had like 15,000 all the people that saw a whole show, and about 60,000 people that passed through the platform. So this was surprising for us at this moment. So it's also, we got a lot of feedback on how important it was for people to participate in this kind of event. Do I have 1 minute still left? No, I said too much already.
Nope, you can have a minute just to tie things up.
No, I was going to show a short video.
So do it.
All right.
We have time.
Okay. Let's see if I can share sound. No.
Yeah, you folk are doing a great job of asking questions in the chat, and Dharam, thank you for your generosity in answering all the questions there. It kind of allows sometimes for Natália to take part here, so great, thank you.
Do you see my screen?
There we go, we see it now.
Guardare, essere, il concetto anche di presenza, essere presenti in un teatro è la domanda cruciale.
Quando a gente vai falar e pensar sobre Castellucci, diálogo transversal com a peça de Romeu Castellucci.
So coming from South Africa and growing up during a time where muitos discursos contraditórios.
Para tratar do negro é preciso encarar os problemas da sociedade brasileira.
Nas discussões sobre o extermínio da juventude negra.
Negra, 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 negra.
So much of our knowledge is oppositional.
Para contribuir para que a gente não conte histórias únicas.
A arte é a possibilidade da gente ritualizar nossas relações e de nós conseguirmos atravessar os limites que cada cultura nos impõe.
Yeah, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Yep, great. Thank you, Natália, for that very thoughtful and provocative kind of presentation as well. Thank you to all three of the speakers, to Marion, to Dharam, and Natália. It's been a really great intervention on all of your part to provide us with some things to think about in terms of what main questions that we are hoping to deal with over these 4 days of this atelier. Some of the questions that people have indicated of real concern to them prior to coming, and in some of the discussions yesterday, I'm going to pose to you as well, because I think from your various experiences. It'll be great to learn. One of the major challenges that people have experienced over the last 14 months in terms of getting onto the digital platforms is, how do you monetize it? What are the new business models that can sustain festivals either of a hybrid nature or festivals that take part on online platforms? And if you're still having the same streams of income as before, say public sector together with private sector and box office income, how has that shifted through your kind of recent experiences in terms of the percentages of the income that derive from those different sources? I think all three of you come from countries in which the public sector is not particularly supportive of the arts. So how do you support what it is that you do? Natália, you mentioned Unique. Dharam, you mentioned Bacardi. And I know that the Dakar Biennale has kind of had some funding before from the public sector, Marianne. So maybe each of you can just talk a little bit about the business models that underpin what it is that you are, the directions that you're going in now. Maybe start with you, Marianne, and then Dharam and Natália.
Okay, thanks, thank you. So first of all, Afropixel is not a commercial model of festival. We work more with public partners. So as we said, we made a proposal to Johannesburg Pro Helvetia office that had this breathing space program with a small proposal, but we make the festival bigger. We had made a proposal to Wallonie Brussels for 5 years, working with Kick Festival in Namur in Brussels. So there was a part plan for the last Afropixel, and we got this budget. We asked the Goethe also, so it was really important to have this, to get the funders in this challenge to connect Anglophone and Francophone Africa. It's not all the funders who wants to connect that, so Pro Helvetia Johannesburg made that. And we also try to involve the local, even if it's very hard to have the Ministry of Culture, we try to have a strong connection with the city of Dakar. We help them to have the label of numeric city from the UNESCO. So it was important for them to be part of this festival, and they help us not only with money, but also to reach the children from social center participating to the workshops. And we use also collective pot we have from the Arts Collaboratory Network. So it's a mix of funds, but there is not only foreign funds, there was also City of Dakar funds.
Okay, so that's kind of very interesting. It's a combination of international funding, local government funding, partnerships that you've created with other festivals. Is there any kind of box office income? Is there anything that people to have access to what it is that you were offering that people were paying? Or was everything that you provided free? Marianne? Hi, Marianne, are you there? Sorry, you're muted.
Yes, sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I was just asking if there was any box office kind of income. Did people have access to what you had to offer completely for free?
No, we always, it's always completely for free. We are not a business model festival, even during the year. We are a non-profit organization, and we have just a small business model, very little with the Fab Lab, but it was not it was all for free, yes.
Okay, cool. Dharam, your experience.
Unlike the festival Marion was speaking about as Afropixel, ours is a commercial festival. It's always intended to be run as a business. And like you rightly identified also, India as a market has traditionally never been about the kind of ticketing monies that we make at the box office. The festival has always been possible because of partners such as Bacardi And we've also had other partners come in year on year, but Bacardi has always been the mainstay partner in it. It always supports a marketing function for a brand like Bacardi really well. So music, or rather liquor, you can imagine, is best enjoyed in the company of music, and we're able to create the right pairing of the music with the product for Bacardi in which it is served on ground. It was a really big challenge for us to do that online, and yet for Bacardi there was a lot of merit in partnering with the festival just to see how it goes online, and how in a year where it's not possible on ground, how can they continue to chat with their fans and an engaged audience. So it was still once again possible because of partners like Bacardi. Having said that, there was a significant amount of money that we made at the box office that we were not expecting to make, purely because the entry barrier was low, and we were kind of trying to even keep it free of cost so that fans can come and sample it at no cost whatsoever. We actually managed to do that, where on day 0 the experience was free for everyone, so that you go back home, and if you feel like paying for it, you pay for day 2 and day 3, and that worked really well for us as well, in the way fans sampled it first and then bought a ticket. And finally, I would end it on the note that as a market, India is a growing market, but ticketing has traditionally never supported the way events happen. It contributes to the revenue, but is not a big chunk of the revenue that we make, and the festival is possible because of partners. So serving their marketing agenda in a smart manner allows us to do the festival in a creative way. And as you saw, a lot of my presentation was about the way we integrate the brand very naturally into the conversation, so that it doesn't stand out as a sticking out like a sore thumb in the conversation. And that's what allows fans to know that Bacardi is an ally for them when in their journey of music. And that's what allows Bacardi to continue to support the festival year on year.
Great. I'm kind of interested in your comment about ticketing not being a big thing in India in terms of its market growth and the like. But because I'm a bit of a cricket fan and I watch IPL and the like, I was wondering how people who go and watch cricket, do they buy tickets to watch cricket? And have you, as a festival, or has the arts in India ever kind of thought about maybe partnering with cricket or with cricket sponsors, because it just seems to be such a big thing in your country?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that cricket is a really big deal in India, because it is traditionally, and it always has been, cricket experiences are monetized. There are big monies charged for box seats in the stadium as opposed to the general kind of seats, and there's a different kind of price point for that. And it also has to do with the culture of the country in some ways. You know, when festivals like Woodstock were happening world over, India did not really ever have that culture of going out to concerts and celebrating music experiences the way the West has done. In India, these concerts only started to come about in maybe the 80s or the 90s, and literally the first big music festival that happened in India was in the year 2006, 2007. So it's like I'm saying, it's a cultural thing. People are not used to spending on music experiences because their parents are not used to spending on music experiences. So now I hope that our children will look at it differently, and the role that we play as a music festival is to encourage people to support culture and arts through the way they kind of spend on these tickets. So it is an educative process, but it's also a very long process, and which is why we try and ensure that the festival tickets are cheap, but we try and up the bar year on year as well. And we're not looking at creating a VIP experience. There are festivals or music experiences in the country that charge you a lot of money, but they are catering only to 300, 400, or maybe 1,000 people sometimes, as very niche experiences. We're an experience that's looking at providing scale. We are for the masses. We want the culture of the country to change in some ways, but at the same time, we don't want it to change it just for a niche. So the balance with which we try and do things comes into play very often.
Great, thank you very much for that. Natália, speak a little bit about your business model and the various streams of income that you have.
Yeah, I'm very interested. It's very interesting what Dharam is saying. Is something that keeps coming back in my mind all the time. about how can we make this business model, how can we make people engage with this idea that for some, I was living 7 years in the Netherlands. So out there, I experienced how different it is, the attitude of buying a ticket, you know, to go see a concert or go see a theater. It's something that you understand as yeah, has a value in itself. Here we have many challenges, of course. Many people do not have they don't have this $1 to pay for a ticket. There are people that really can't, but there are people that can pay. So how can we still be accessible and but not devalorize the work we're doing? Because I believe charging for tickets is a way of taking this conscience of the people that are buying the ticket, that this is, you know, this is it's a symbolic act of valorizing what you're about to see. But we have in the festival, in the presential festival, we always work with popular prices. So it would be from 5 to 10 euros, $5 to $10, a little bit around that. And then now for the online version, we wanted to start with not charging, with people not being charged to see, because it was a bit as the same strategy of giving one day, the first day for free, and then seeing, we're just thinking a little bit longer in times of how we split this, what is free, and how we start engaging people and making them to understand that this is not going to be financed by itself. Although we have partners with the festival, for the platform, we talked with these partners, and also with a new partner, Asus, that financed part of the process. And also in the beginning of the year, we had an emergency law for artists to get to be able to work. So they made kind of calling public calls for you to subscribe a project, and then we subscribed this project, and we were contemplated with some financial support also from the government, from the state of São Paulo. So that allowed us to put the platform up, like just to make it exist. But now for the artists, you know, to pay the artistic fees and everything, we had the help of this European institutes, the Provesia and British Council, and the Italian Institute of Culture. And now for next month, we are working with the French Institute, and hopefully with Goethe as well. So we now have this challenge. We are thinking about that. How do we do? What will be this transition? We intend to do it by the end of the year, when we have things more structured. There are pieces of the platform which are not implanted yet. The ideas that also how to be more sociable within the platform, and other ideas that are not there yet. So we will do that after the project is more structured. Then we intend to think about ways to rent a title of a piece of play that people can buy the ticket just to see for one day, or a monthly signature. We don't know yet. This is challenging us. So I'm happy to hear you also borrow your ideas from it.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we are having these ateliers, is to share ideas and to share ideas across very different experiences. And so, which kind of leads me to another question. Dharam raised a very interesting point about culture and about how, say, music festivals are not integrated into Indian culture in the same way as, say, cricket is. And I was wondering about this with regard to, the retreat in some ways to digital platforms. In a way, we kind of need to be building digital cultures. I think that's like the kind of thing that Martin was maybe referring to yesterday. But I was wondering also about how does one build a digital culture in contexts such as where you as three speakers come from, where maybe some of the barriers to access are relatively high. For example, the cost of data. Not everybody has access to the internet in the way that people might have in global north. Not everyone has access to a smart phone. Dharam, you were saying not everybody has access to gaming consoles, for example, so that limits the kind of digital platforms or opportunities that you might provide. So I just wondered about some of the key challenges that you have experienced, Marion and Natália and Dharam, in terms of prioritizing the digital platforms in your particular context. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced, and how have you overcome them, or how do you propose to overcome them? Marion?
I will mix with my question. I can say that Senegal, compared to regional countries in terms of access to technology, is not in big cities. It's not so people are really connected on social networks. But why we didn't commercialize, and what we do is very experimental and to have a reflection on the technology. So when I spoke with Tegan about the digital experience, she told me that it was very challenging to get the local audience, and that was one of our main preoccupation, not to lose the local audience, and so with the specific thematic that can be very experimental and not So we had to use a lot social media to get people to Facebook. People are a lot on Facebook in Senegal, and to touch people from the cultural sectors, artists. And also one way to get the public audience was to involve in this edition some local artists in performance, in residence, that has already some audience. So and we had to get this hybrid format also. So it's still a challenge, but we managed like that. I don't know if I answered your question. That's the way we try to.
Yep. No, I mean, I think that you have begun to answer it. Yeah. Natália, some of the key challenges in your context. Yeah, I think you're muted still.
Wow. We thought about the accessibility on how to reach people, and we understood that we would not be able to create like a totem in the city for people to access, or in the realm of internet. We would not be able to provide internet for people to be able to access the content for people that do not have the internet. So we thought of opening the idea of accessibility, and we started heavily investing in sign language and audio description for people that blind people, and also for the subtitles, of course, to put everything in Portuguese so people would be able to read. So we actually gained this new public. We had people that with all sorts of difficulties, different challenges, that were able to see some of the shows but in the sense of how do we make it more accessible to people that do not have this kind of or equipment or even the internet. It's still a big challenge also for us. Something we are thinking also how to go to the places, how do we do partnerships with cultural centers, for instance, and in the more hybrid way in the future, to make people have access to the content.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the ironies, isn't it, of the current space. On the one hand, through digital technology, we have access to global audiences, and on the other hand, in some of our countries, with the cost of data and the lack of access to internet is such that we almost kind of alienated from our local audiences through the digital space because people just don't have the money or to be able to access. So it's one of those ironies in terms of dealing with it, particularly in some of the global South countries, and certainly this is the case in many African countries. Dharam, just any kind of experiences that you've had with barriers to entry that you've kind of had to deal with?
I think I'll say a little bit more or elaborate a little bit more on what I touched upon earlier. India is a country of 1.2 billion or so, and out of which 700 million are internet users, out of which 60% are cell phone users. So our first effort was to try and make something that caters to mobile phones. And when we were doing that, we realized that it's not as much fun when you watch it on the cell phone because of the way we've designed the platform. So in short, that was one of the things we failed at completely, trying to make the version of the festival be accessible on the cell phones. It was accessible, but not in an engaging manner that allows you to play games, allows you to stay connected with your friends, be in the chat room and kind of do all of the things that are possible to do. And hence it was limited to being best experienced on your web browser, which means that even though there is a big fraction of society that has computers and web browsers, we've still not tapped into what is the full potential of the festival, which is if it was accessible only on cell phones. And when we manage to do that is when we hope that we can realize the full potential of scale. But at the same time, I don't know if we want to do that in some ways, because that audience is a way larger audience compared to our core audience, which is following independent music. Because the festival at the end of the day is still about independent music, and it's about celebrating independent culture rather than straight up Bollywood music or those styles of music. Which is why in some ways we were very happy with achieving the web browser version. And in the following years, we would love to be able to develop a version that is mobile friendly and allows you the best of both worlds in some ways.
I think you make a very important point, which kind of raises a question that we began to talk about yesterday as well. Is it within this digital space that some forms within the creative industries are more able to kind of be produced for and distributed through digital platforms than other forms? So for example, something like music, and I think you've given us a brilliant example about how you've gone online, but expressed the difficulties of experiencing it through a mobile device. And is that not even more so the case when it comes to dance or theater? So I was wondering, Natália, if that's kind of been your experience as well. Because certainly across Africa, again, most people probably access the internet via their mobile phones. And a very interesting point you made earlier, Dharam, about 108 minutes of experience of what you folk have to offer. That's huge. I think in one of the previous ateliers that we had, someone from the Edinburgh Festival said they've done research and that showed that their audiences for the online, what they were offering online, was about 8 minutes. What you folk have achieved is a whole of 100 minutes more. So that's pretty significant.
I know exactly what the significance of something like that is, and we work extensively on content with platforms like Amazon and Netflix and YouTube and all of these guys on non-music related stuff. And when we share these stats with them, it makes them fall off their chairs as well. They don't really believe us, and everybody wants to know more about how something like that is possible. But we're, again, just talking about the data that we have, and even with someone like YouTube, it's 4 or 8 minutes of engagement that they can expect on one video from their fans. So it's definitely about how to keep them engaged and kind of hacking that thought process of a fan and giving them everything that they would want so they don't leave your platform. And once you start thinking in that way, I'm sure it opens up a Pandora's box of ideas.
Yeah, but I think what is interesting about it is whether, because this was part of the discussion yesterday as well, about how COVID is impacting art making and obviously festival making. And if people are experiencing or wanting to access something on YouTube or on the internet for 4 to 8 minutes, does that mean that we now need to be producing theater of 4 to 8 minutes? In other words, putting on a 2-hour Shakespearean plays is no longer, what we should be doing. We should now be doing 4 to 8 minute pieces of theater. I'd like to hear from people who are in the theater mode. I think many people are in multidisciplinary festivals here, and yeah, how do people respond to that?
I'm not sorry. I would like to speak about the residence experience we had between 13 artists. I told you from Colombia, Switzerland, Congo, Senegal, and Johannesburg working together, and we made 1 hour performance. During one month is a way to create. It's more experimental format and to give access to 2 performances online, and giving a possibility to the audience to participate to the live performance. So I tell you, it's not, people will not pay that, and after his 1 hour performance, they will not look, but to participate, to experiment, and it's not commercial, but all that offers to the artist participant, all the collaboration that create, and all the, for me, it's more experimental, but it's very interesting, and it's different. Sure, people will not pay for that, but audience really participate from Senegal and elsewhere, participate to the result, to the performance. So it's a bit different experience, but it's important to share that format of to hybrid format and live doing together, and so it's a collaborative online process where artists, it's another experience I would like to share.
Yeah, I think that what has happened over the last 14 months as well is that there's been a lot of sympathy for artists, and because artists have lost the ways in which they traditionally have made income, there's been a lot of, let's try to create platforms for artists to be able to do work together and to access funding in some ways and the like. So we've actually done quite well, and we generally, that's how we work, on the supply side. We kind of provide what we think audiences need, or we do things that we think are kind of exciting for artists. I was wondering about, because this is one of the questions in today's kind of panel discussion, what tools are we using to determine what our audiences want? Are our audiences happy with us going onto digital platforms? Is that the way they want to access theater and dance and music and visual art and so on? Is it that we've gone that route because we've had to, because we can't have gatherings anymore? Have we been testing our audiences to see what it is that they want, or are we kind of in that mode of, you know what, we know what's good for you, we're going to deliver it to you, whether you like it or not? Now, Dharam, what you've been talking about is just by virtue of the kind of responses that you receive from your fans and the kind of investment that they've made in making money available, even if they don't know that there's going to be future editions, that shows that you are resonating with audiences to some extent. But do you have particular tools that you've been using to test whether what you're doing with your audiences is really what they want?
I'll answer that, but I'll also share a little bit of my thoughts on the success of the festival in the first place. If our festival was starting out for the first time in the year of the pandemic, I don't think there's a hope in hell that we would have done so well. It is because of the legacy of our relationship with our fans and what the festival means to our fans that allows them to want to support it, because we have supported artists in the right way over the last decade, and they want to support an entity that allows their favorite artists to continue to grow the way they do. If that layer did not exist, I don't really see how we would be able to convince a lot of fans that they should be paying for an experience online, when all of the same artists also have YouTube sets, which are different sets of course, but those sets exist. So they don't really need to get locked into this one time on this Saturday and Sunday evening to watch it. They can just choose to watch it on their own time. And for example, Cigarettes After Sex. Cigarettes After Sex was one of the headliners at our festival. You could choose to watch another Cigarettes After Sex performance instead of paying money to watch it at our festival. But it is because of the kind of fan following that we have and the support that we have, that we've developed over the last decade, that allows us to make the transition into a successful digital edition of the festival. So I wanted to just share that off the bat. In terms of how we talk to our fans and kind of try and understand what's working and not working, I think is a bit of a slippery slope. In the past, we have done polls and we have done feedback collection mechanisms where we try and understand what fans liked about the festival and the music and what they didn't like. And that tends to be a slippery slope because of the scale at which we're operating. When we have 65,000 attendees, everybody has a different viewpoint on what artists they want to see and what they liked and what they didn't like. And at that point, we have to trust our gut. We are fans of the music and the experience in the first place, and we have a wish list of acts that we want to book for the next 5 years, literally. So there's no shortage over there in some regards. And what we do make use of as tools is trying to understand the back end of listenership in India. We definitely try and get a pulse on that situation in terms of Google Trends, seeing what artists have the most number of searches, and kind of validating that if we're booking Cigarettes After Sex, yes, they do have a good following in India in terms of the way they get searched for on Google in India. Those kind of basic checks definitely validate our thought process, but at the same time, it is a gut-based process, and we are on the lookout for these acts for years, and we've been following this list for years, and it's just growing. It's not something that we're ever going to fall short of in that way. So it's a fine process, and we do ask our fans for feedback, but we trust our gut when it comes to that first and foremost, and then that feeling is kind of validated with India trend searches and things like that.
Just a final question from me for you, Dharam. I was interested in one of the things that you listed there, influencer associations. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. So when a brand is investing in a festival, like Bacardi is investing with NH7 Weekender, you have to ensure that they have their noise felt in the cultural sphere in the right way. And influencers from different genres, not just music, but also there's also comedy, there's sport, there's dance. All of these genres are huge in India, and when there are influencers talking about your festival and more so watching along with the festival, it adds a lot of prominence to getting fans to also watch it with them. So simply put, things that we did was ensure that we're doing contracts with influencers who are going to be telling their fans that they're excited about this weekend. They're going to be watching it along with their fans online, so that it creates the sense of community, because you're now no longer watching the festival yourself, you're watching it along with your favorite influencer. So in some ways, those kind of validation points are very necessary in today's day and age. The way you guys were talking about, should theater get compressed to 4 minutes or 8 minutes, I would draw an analogy to why should music be promoted by a comedy influencer? Well, that's just the way society works now. When a comedy influencer gives you the validation that they're enjoying your music, there's a lot of fans who enjoy it, but they need to hear that before they start enjoying it themselves. So it's kind of like that cat and mouse situation.
Cool. I wanted to kind of maybe end this particular panel discussion and just continue to have a look at the questions in the chat for Natália, Marion, and Dharam. And if you could maybe pick up on some of those there. There's one from Brett about the back end, digital production capacity. But I did want to maybe just pose this as a final question to all three of you, because Natália and Dharam, you do come from contexts that are very much in the news at the moment in terms of COVID-19 and its impact on your societies. So one has to ask this question. We are making festivals and we are making art in very real contexts. So we can't, we've often spoken in the ateliers about festival making doesn't happen in a vacuum. So I wanted to know about the extent to which what is happening in your societies is impacting on your conceptualization of what it is that you do. Are you doing what you do anyway, or are there ways in which what is happening in your society is impacting on your festival making at the moment? Marion, maybe start with you and then Natália, and we'll end off with Dharam.
I can say that since the COVID came, we have more and more work. We never stop the work we always do. We have to, out of the festival, we made with the Fab Lab medical material for the crisis, washing machine, and but as I say, we kept the same format and hybrid, and we adapt. But sure, we would like to come back on a live. For us, as you said, the live is also very important to engage our community. It's not the same to have, even if it was good to experiment and we see that we can have emotion through platforms and we experiment. So we will try to keep both of this experience and to create online, to exchange, but I can say that we adapt, always we have this capacity to adapt in our local context with trying to keep the local audience as a priority. So voila, and festival is just one moment of all we do during 2 years, and so it's just one moment to show and to network. One question was, how did you choose your artists? Is there artists that are in our networks? And it's just one moment to give a focus on what we do every day. So
okay.
That we adapt.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Natália?
Well, the MICSP, the festival, São Paulo International Theatre Festival, we were always working with difficulties since the beginning. I mean, every year is a challenging, just to build up the program is the fun part, and then getting the money to make it real is always very challenging. And we always positioned ourselves politically since the beginning in the festival, also taking subjects from society to being engaged by artists, and the kind of also of shows we bring and the type of discussions that we promote. So I think there is no, would make no sense to take out the context in any context talking about art, because it's we see now artists coming up with images and kind of clues of what can this new world be, because we trust that imagination is a powerful tool. And that there's the only way of coming out of this is to imagine a new way, to imagine a different way. So we count on artists to help us imagine this new world. And I truly believe that now we are facing, it's a very critical moment for us to also see all these clues that were already there for such a long time. And I hope mankind will learn from these mistakes. But I think in the sense of what does it change in the art being made, it's a lot of experiments for now. We just we feel it's important to gather together to exchange ideas and to keep creativity going and imagination flowing. So this is the space we want to provide, this space for imagination. So for us, it's more important than to say, don't make something bigger than 5 minutes, because the average of audience, we don't know anything. It's a very it's now the moment that we know what makes sense and what doesn't when we see it, when we live it, we experience it. Things appear to be more clear, you know, what is not important, what is not a priority. So I think we are learning and building. For now, there is nothing certain.
Sure, the theatre and dance and music making of uncertainty. That's the moment we're in, isn't it, Natalia? Okay, Dharam, the final word to you.
I'll try and keep it short, and I think it's a really interesting, because this is something we were struggling with internally ourselves. What is going to be the tone with which we're communicating, the vibe we want to communicate, and what we settled for was this is meant to provide relief and escape to a lot of people who can't shy away from what is happening in the world outside. And it should not become a reflection, or it should not become exactly what is happening outside. It should not directly remind you about what is happening outside. We were going for that. It should provide you the sense of escape. But just like Natalia said, very naturally, it would be a little bit insane not to acknowledge what is happening outside. So some artists did that really well in the way they spoke to the camera. Just because they have the ability to contextualize and share in words how they're feeling and how they feel about this platform that is bringing people together. So some artists did that very well, and those messages were peppered in the sets, the way they were talking to the camera. But otherwise, our brief to all the artists was that we are not looking at them to contextualize the environment outside. We want to provide our fans a sense of escape. And when you're giving them the sense of escape, they want to be in there longer than they would be otherwise if it was just about what was happening outside. So I do hope that answers it in some way, but it was really tough to achieve that balance.
So that's maybe the clue, that people who are engaged in theatre that confronts them with reality only want 4 to 8 minutes of theatre, whereas people who want escapism want 108 minutes of music. So, folk, thank you very, very much for all of you as participants in the atelier, for being here and for your engagement in the chats. It's been really good watching the questions there, and the panel has been amazing in terms of the presentations and the engagement with the questions as well. So a huge thank you to Marion, to Natalia, and to Dharam for your being with us today and for your very stimulating insights. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Maybe I continue. I can answer now the questions in the chat afterwards.
Sure.
And send it to you.
We have time for that. Let's conclude the live stream. So for all the people who have been following us from outside, thanks for joining us. I think it was a fantastic panel to indeed imagine this new world that you've been referencing, Natalia. And I really like the concept of the trust in imagination, because it's not only about imagining a more human world, but it's also about imagining a more humane digital world. So thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 12, where we will look into the topic more from a cross-sector perspective. So looking forward to seeing you there.